tell the difference personally between, say, a fear of change or fear of new things or fear of success and your gut telling you this is a bad idea?
Well, that's a tough one, and I think we all struggle with that. I've seen a lot of people discussing this lately. In fact, just this morning on Facebook, there was a post and a lot of comments about it. And personally, this is something that I've struggled with myself, and it's been really, Marnie, a really new development for me in the past few weeks that I've begun to combine this kind of mindset, thinking about things with the bodily-based fear to try to get at it from both ways and see if they agree, Because sometimes our guts and our hearts can mislead us, and as thinking about things can mislead us too. So I've tried to combine things. I'm not, a terrible fan of things that are really too woo-woo, I do appreciate alternative medicine and stuff like that, but, I'm a really kind of science-based person. I'm like, show me the study,
Right.
I do believe strongly that there are things that I will never be able to comprehend in other ways of knowing besides science, don't get me wrong. But we stray too far into law of attraction, I get a little sick to my stomach. So what I like to do is look at things on a thinking basis first and use some, tools, the rules of logic, those kinds of things to see, and then examine my assumptions and then also use things like heart math, heart intelligence kind of stuff to see if that information agrees or lines up with the way I was thinking about it. If they don't jive, then I have a pretty good idea that it was a bad idea. And sometimes, in spite of all that, I don't have the information. And then I'll say, okay, well, let me just take action on the first step. And if it flops, I know it was a bad idea. I mean, sometimes I've learned the hard way that sometimes I can't make a decision about whether something's a bad idea or not without trying it. And then that will inform me. It's like, okay, that flopped, or, hey, that was a go,
Right.
And I can be totally surprised. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so you're lining your heart and your mind up. You're trying to get them to work in unison so that they are agreeing.
Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think that, people can get stuck believing that there's only one big idea for them, only one way to make their business or even their life successful, and that's not true, Ideas come and go, and you've just got to put them into action and try them, and then you've got to correct your course. And then other ideas and other things will come along. I think you mentioned something, Marnie, that, you would see who showed up, see what serendipitous things happened along the way to inform whether you were going to go down that path or not. So many people get stumped or kind of burned when a big idea that they had and they launched out there didn't work, that they become scared to try anything else. Mm-hmm. So, you've got to, as one of my friends likes to say here in the South, you've got to put on your big girl panties and, step out and say, okay, that didn't work, but also be able to take a look objectively at why you think that didn't work. Look at the strengths of your idea, but if it didn't work, look at the weaknesses. Perhaps there's a twist you can make in it. Perhaps you could relaunch it with in a different direction. Ask the people, if it's product or service, ask the people that maybe came to your site or came to your teleseminar but didn't end up buying your product. Find out why. And don't just say, okay, that was terrible and I'm a failure and I'm not going to do that again. Try to get some information from it because it's from our failures that we learn our best lessons. I know that's been true for me in my personal life as well as my business life. It's not from the successes that I've learned. It's from the failures.
Right.
I've learned from the successes too, but it's the big, important lessons I got from the failures. So
I'm getting kind of a common thread here. When you were talking about how you don't like to get too off into woo-woo, and you're using your scientific skills as a former PA, right?
Yeah, right.
So in a way, like when you said that, I thought, I always call myself a believing skeptic. I tend to want to believe, but I do look for the proof. you know.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I want to test that out and see. So almost a good entrepreneur is going to be a little bit of a scientist and remove themselves where it's not personal if this idea didn't work. It's not a reflection on them as a failure and a horrible person who should never try again. It's that, okay, this experiment didn't quite work. We're going to tweak the variables. We're going to see what else could work. And you're almost a scientist in a way.
You absolutely are. I like to look at it. I use the word chemistry set all the time in talking about this kinds of things, because you're doing experiments and you're hypothesizing really about whether something's going to work or not. And you've got many different variables in there, about, the different sales letters or different emails or your offer itself, and you're mixing and mucking around and testing them to see whether it worked or not, and then you're going to get your experimental result. And if you can, I like that, if you can pull yourself away from it and say, well, okay, this is my experimental result. We made X dollars or we didn't make X dollars. This is it, and what can we do to change the experiment next time so that it will work? And that'll really pull you out of that emotional mire that we can get in that says that everything we do is a direct reflection of who we are as a person, and that's absolutely not true.
Yeah, yeah.